I'm Annie. I'm here today will introduce a paper review during my presentation. The paper is called Intercultural Communication and Discourse Analysis: The Case of Aviation English, which published by Presidia Social and Behavioral Sciences Journal in 2015. This is my content. I will begin with an introduction, then I will also talk about the literature review in this paper. The last part are the conclusion and viewpoint. In the domain of English for specific purpose, aviation English has become a matter of concerned issue. The International Civil Aviation Organization requirements encompass both technical language and common English applicable to both native and non-native English speakers. However, based on cultural differences, related conventions and device communication style, air traffic controller and pilots sometimes using English may cause confusion and misunderstanding, which in turn can result in aviation accidents or incidents. So this paper aims to consider cultural dimensions as introduced by Harvstein in 1980s theory and their involvement in aviation context, focusing on intercultural communication in the teachings of aviation English. English has become a world language and intercultural sensitivity has risen in recent years, so both native speaker culture and non-mainstream culture should be seriously thought out about it. Although using English as a lingua franca, social and cultural diversity exists among different ethnic groups. The cultural aspects may have effect on individuals' interactions with dialogists from different cultural backgrounds. Therefore, understanding the diversity and learning necessary skill in intercultural communications must be compulsory in the study of aviation English, especially concerning flight safety and operation skill. The aim of this article is to analyze some aviation incident and accident to illustrate how cultural factors affect communications between multicultural dialogists in order to encourage the teaching of aviation English as a lingua franca. In aviation English, the goal of learning intercultural is not assimilation to norms of the target culture, but it is an expansion of the intermediate position. Helms in 1972 developed a concept called communicative competence, and he thought in order to understand first language acquisitions must learn both grammatical competence and the proper use of language are important. In 1966, Helms offered the communicative competence concept different from Chomsky's linguistic competence in 1965. Linguistic competence is only to focus on grammar or sentences, but communicative competence emphasizes sociolinguistic and applicable to communication ability. If we define the intercultural environment based on the cultural attribute of the participant, they may likely to cause any misunderstanding in the discourse due to cultural differences. Historically, flight safety has been endangered by insufficient and inappropriate communication between the crew and air traffic controller. There is a minimum of 3 ways that can lead to miscommunication in aviation, mentioned by Orasanu, Frechette, and Davison in 19 97. The first one is there could be complications in the transmission of language, as such problems belong to this category. The second one is there might be some miscomprehension on the side of the receiver. Using jargons or unfamiliar utterances can lead to confusion. The last one is the messages that are transmitted as well as understood correctly, but fail to build a shared understanding of that particular situation. So the standardization of communication is basically intended to decline misunderstanding communication between the flight crew and the air traffic controller. Nevertheless, it does not always work. This paper attempts to specifically address miscommunications in commercial aviation, precisely between flight crew and air traffic controller. The research methods say that most accident investigators usually lack for the method to analyze language-related factors in aviation accidents. However, the work of Halberstad's cultural dimension theory seems to be the most relevant in analyzing accidents which are focused on in this paper. Halberstad, in the analysis of his initial study, identified systematic differences in national culture on four primary dimensions: power distance, individualism versus collectivism, uncertainty avoidance, and masculinity versus femininity, and later he added long versus short-term orientation, and indulgence versus restraint. According to Mallet in 2000 paper of research, significant replication correlate relations for all indexes of individualism, collectivism, power distance, masculinity versus femininity, and uncertainty avoidance, confirms that national culture exerts an influence on cockpit behavior over and above the professional culture of pilots. This is the case study about applied Halberstad's cultural dimension theory. A cargo flight departed from Tehran to Seoul and crashed into a mountain due to a wrong turn. The accident of the crash may be used jargons or unfamiliar utterances lead to confusions, and the pilot did not reconfirm with the air traffic controller. As shown in the right diagram, Korea is located in a high power distance. Based on his cultural perspective, the pilot must have felt subordinate to the air traffic controller, so that this can explain why he did not express his doubt and asked for clarification and guidance. Here is also about a nearly happened accident due to ineffective communication between two air traffic controllers. Analysis of mentioned communication highlights three important points: an implicit exchange of critical information between air traffic controllers. The second point is repeated code switch from Persian to English. The third point is the longer time conversation between air traffic controller and radar controllers. They also use Gleiss's maxim to discuss such aviation communication as the above situation. Gleiss believed that in the process of communication, both parties need to follow a principle to complete the task of communications. There are four important principles for people to make the diagram keep smoothly. Corresponds to the table on the right. Cooperation in communication can follow maxim. The first one, quantity means try to be as informative as one possible can. Qualities means to be truthful. Relations means tries to be relevant. And manner means try to as perspicuous. Aviation discourse analysis have vertical that there is a contradiction between communicating safety issue and sustained phase. The authors cite the theory called politeness, which was developed by Brown and Leveson in 1987. The face of dialogists should be saved by mitigating face-threatening acts. This is a conclusion. Benetton and Wiseman defined intercultural sensitivity as the ability to discriminate and experience relevant cultural differences, whereas intercultural competence is the ability to think and act in interculturally appropriate ways. It is clear that what foreign aviation crew needs is far more than intercultural sensitivity, and the ability that they need to have should also encompass intercultural competence in order to keep miscomprehension problems to a minimum. English for specific purpose, we also call ESP courses, needs to be designed and practiced in ways to consider language along with culture as tools for vocational activities. ESP learners to be prepared with specific linguistic and cultural competence, which is permanently determined for workplace demand. Confirms that the creative lingua franca is an essential part that contributes to effective aviation communications. To reduce cause situation in misunderstanding may lead to a tragedy. ICAO presentations of a series of language proficiency requirements in 2004 identified 6 different levels of operational aviation English competence was developed. The aspect including 6 skills as satire, vocabulary, grammar or structure, pronunciation or accents, fluency, comprehension, and interaction. Let's price my viewpoint of this paper. Language not only is a tool to communicate, but also full of meaningful culture. To reduce the barriers or occurrence of language misunderstandings, in addition to professional skill, participation must also enhance their intercultural sensitivity and intercultural competence. And that is my reference. Thank you for your listening.